you want a good ready position? It's because you want to be able to react early to balls and hit balls early and out in front. You also don't want balls to get past you or be late on a shot, or worse yet, have the ball hit you. Then the ready position can help you. Make sure that you're in the best position possible to deal with whatever your opponents have in store for you. When pickleball players talk about the ready position, most of them are referring to their paddle, where their paddle was. So when you see a situation where a player got slammed with a ball, usually the response by the player who got slammed is, I did not have my paddle ready, or wasn't ready. And what they're generally talking about is their paddle not being in the right position. The ready position, however, it's more than just where your paddle is. There's 3 different components to the ready position. And if you're familiar with We Are Pickleball, we do the 3 pillars of pickleball, or we use the 3 pillars of pickleball to build a player's game. This is the mechanical pillar, the first pillar of the 3 pillars. And the mechanical pillar has 3 components to it. So you have basically your relationship foot to court. You have your relationship of your foot to shoulder, which is your body and how that works. And then you have the relationship shoulder to paddle, which is your paddle position and how you're moving your paddle. If you're not familiar with the 3 pillars of pickleball, I highly recommend that you become familiar with them if you really want to improve. I'll link below to a guide that we offer at We Are Pickleball. It's a free guide you can get called the 3 pillars of pickleball. It'll help explain them to you and you can apply them to your game. All right, so let's look at the options for the ready position, starting with the feet. What you're trying to avoid in terms of your feet in the ready position is you're trying to avoid being on your heels. So here I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm going to lift my toes up a little bit. This would be really hard to move out of this position. Obviously, you're not going to stand like this. But if you're standing like this, back into your heels, even with your toes on the court, it's going to be really difficult to move out of this position. You're basically going to have to rotate up into the balls of your feet and then move. So generally speaking, with the ready position, you're trying to keep the weight of your weight in the balls of your feet, or at least somewhat in the balls of your feet. You'll see some players that really exaggerate that, and they'll be like this, really engaged in the balls of the feet. As long as you have the weight off of your heels, normally you're going to be fine in a ready position and be able to move out of the position that you're in to get a stress ding or react to a shot or cover a lob or whatever you need to do. But being up in the balls of your feet is going to really help that. So option number 1 on your feet, make sure that you have your weight engaged up in the balls of your feet. Another aspect of the feet is how far apart you want them, how wide you want them. Normally, about shoulder width or a little bit shoulder width is going to be plenty apart. You'll see some players that will play farther apart like this. The difficulty with playing farther apart like this is you have to, if you're going to move, you're going to have to come out of that position in order to move. Players who play like this, a lot of times what you see is they basically crouch down like this. Some pro players will do this, they'll play like this, but they're really reaching for a lot of balls. They're trying not to move as much. So if you're going to play like this, you're probably going to be sort of anchored down, and then you're going to be trying to lean towards balls. If you're not going to lean towards balls, then having your feet about shoulder width apart or a little bit farther apart is going to be perfectly fine for your ready position. If you're a pickleball player looking to improve, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get notified of future videos. And when you're ready, make sure you check us out at wearepickleball.com. We'll give you all the tools you need to take your pickleball to the next level. Once we understand how our feet are going to be in the ready position, next we have to figure out the connection between the feet and the shoulder, which is our body. So there's a couple of different options here, a few different options here. One that you'll see basically players enter this kind of a squat position. So they'll basically stand up at the NBZ like this in a squat position. For me personally, that's not a very comfortable position, so I don't do the sort of the kind of full squat position. You could also come up a little bit like this, or call it a semi-squat position, or you could do a semi-squat, which is what I prefer, which is basically having my weight into my knees a little bit, kind of where I can spring a little bit. So I have my weight forward into my balls of my feet, like we mentioned on the foot part of the ready position. So basically a semi-squat works for me. The key here is to have your body in an engaged position so that you're ready to move. What you don't want to do is have your body in sort of a flaccid or kind of unengaged position where your muscles aren't engaged, and then you have to engage them to move. And also, if you have your knees locked like this, standing up like this, even if your weight's forward, it's not going to be you're not going to be quick to move, quick to react. So what you want to do is have your body in an engaged sort of position, whether you want to go all the way down into a squat, semi-squat, or even higher like I do. All those will work fine as long as your body is engaged and ready to move. Make sure you stay tuned. At the end of the video, we're going to give you our recommendation on the right ready position for you. Now that we know what to do with our feet and our bodies, let's talk about the paddle. That's what everybody wants to talk about when you talk about ready position. So let's talk about the different options that are available to you with your paddle position. And there's really a few different options here that you can do with the paddle. And I'm going to use my paddle right-handed for a minute, and then I'll go left-handed to show you the different options. Usually what you're talking about here is you're talking about paddle position relative to like a clock, right? So the old school style for right-handers was 9 o'clock. So the paddle pointing towards 9 o'clock on a clock. And basically, the idea was to expose the backhand side out to the core like this. The idea being that I could defend a lot of shots with this backhand side. For a left-handed player, it would be 3 o'clock, so it's the same thing. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm putting it out like this. This would be like Coach Mo and kind of old school thinking about pickleball. I don't mean in a bad way, just kind of the traditional way of thinking about it was hold the paddle out like this and defend. Then there was another sort of school of thought that came in, which was basically like 12 o'clock. That'll be 12 o'clock with your left hand or right hand. And basically what you're doing there is you're holding the paddle to track the ball. So what you're doing is you're using the paddle sort of like a sight on a bow and arrow or rifle or something.